Salutations and welcome. Today we're in Vergil's first Eclogue, starting with line, looks like 31 through 35. But first, last time in Vergil's Eclogues. And there you have it. Here's everything that we're looking for as we go through this text. Let's go ahead and get started. Namque fatebor enim, dum me Galatia tenebat, nec spes libertatis erat, nec cura peculi, quamvis multa meis exerit victima saeptis, pinguis et ingratae premeretur caseas urbi, non umquam gravis aere domum mihi dextra redebat. And there we have it. I actually think that's aere. Aere will come later. So, I'm going to find our verb. That's not a verb, of course, but fatebor. Here we have our future passive first singular. And this is indicative. Now, immediately, upon saying enim and having namque right there, we have a thing that we need to figure out, as usual. But so nam generally means for, and enim also means for. However, enim is more of a emphasizing word than nam, which is I forget exactly what it's called, but a word that shows the result, a cause, or something along those lines. So we are kind of required to translate nam as for, and then that means we need to choose a different translation for enim. Other good options are truly or certainly. Based on the meaning of fatebor, confess, it's I think truly is better. Oh, sorry, not passive. Deponent. There we go. So the que here on nam is a further intensifier. So we got for indeed, I truly confess. Blah 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 blah. So that's how I'm going to treat it. Nam for que indeed. I truly will confess. Dum is a, wanted to say conjunction, but adverb. While, not a verb. Aha, tenebat. Seen that ending many times. That is a third singular imperfect. So active and indicative. And this is teneo. It's kind of like habeo. But habeo can mean to have or possess. Teneo means specifically to hold or to grasp. There's just that slight difference between them and how they are used. So singular and galateia. That a right there is, of course, nominative singular and feminine. So she is the subject, while Galatia is holding either ablative or accusative for me. Tenebat's going to want an accusative, so that's what this one must be, accusative and singular. Was holding me, was possessing me, began to, used to, while I think is going to, just the general use for the general translation for the imperfect. While Galatia was holding me, comma, neck, not. So when we see a neck, we want to check further into the text to see if there's another one. That will tell us how to translate it. It's just one by itself means not. When we get two together, then it's a neither nor. So neck, yep. So we got two. So neither space, that es right there, is from the fifth declension, so it could be nominative singular or it could be nominative or accusative plural, feminine. So looking ahead, libertatis, we saw this one in the previous page at the beginning of his speech. It is a third declension feminine, libertatis. This one is going to be genitive and singular, feminine. erat from sum esse fui. That is the third singular imperfect tense, active and indicative. So then this being singular tells us that space is going to be nominative and singular as well. So neither, I'm going to say, was there hope of liberty, comma, nec, nor cura peculi. So since there's no erat in this one, we will assume its existence again, and this is common. It's very often that will happen. No real concern. So cura curai, that is nominative singular feminine. Peculi with that I right there is going to be a genitive. And I think it's peculum peculi, so neuter. And what is peculum? Peculum can be translated as savings. In this case, it is a term that's used legally for slaves. A slave's peculum would be his share, like the animals or the crops. While he served his master as a slave, he could earn money. He can earn pecula, and he would be put towards saving to buy his eventual freedom. So what he's saying here is there's no hope that he would be freed, and nor was there any care given to the collection of pecula for him to use to free himself, while Galatia was his common law wife, his contubernalis. Yeah, so nor care, and this isn't really going to be a genitive of possession. This is going to be a genitive of specification. Care for savings. Yeah, savings. And that would be, as I said, animals or cropland, something like that. All right, moving on. Quam vis. This is kind of like quam. It means however much or although. So I'm going to hold off on choosing between those two before we have a greater idea of this. No. Aha, here we go. Ex iret. We've got our T ending right there, and RE as the stem added on to exio, or ex eo, technically. So this is the verb to go. And since we have it in this form off of the infinitive stem, this means we have a subjunctive. Third singular imperfect, active, subjunctive. So then we need to find a singular subject. Multa could be the correct case, as could victima, and victima is a first declension, so that one does make a lot of sense. Although, however much, many, or it would be much victim, and that would be a singular for the plural, whatever that turn of phrase is. And I think that makes the most sense. Meis is going to be dative or ablative plural, as is saiptis, which is, I think, technically derived from the fourth principal part of a verb, but I think there's a letter change in there. So I'm just going to treat it as a normal adjective. Dative. And I don't think I know the gender of this one. This is something where I'll have to look it up and leave a note. But I would guess probably neuter. So this is going to be the same thing. Dative, ablative, plural, whatever the gender is. So, however much, with the idea of many victims might go out from my, and then saiptis means walls or hedges, enclosures, and that, in the context of this, we might take as possession, though I'm just going to write walls and hedges. So, however much many victims might go out from my walls, although many victims might go out from my walls. I think the adversative although makes more sense. And of course, victim is a sacrifice. And since this is not a clause that specifically calls for a direct subjunctive translation in English, we would just change it normally to the indicative as I have here. Went out from my walls with the meaning of possessions. I may have gotten this bit right here from the commentary. I don't remember now. Okay, moving on to the next line. So our editors put the comma right there. And I think it also appears there in the text in the commentary. But if we take a look at pinguis, pinguis is a third declension adjective. It's got pinguis, pingue. I think it's a two termination. So this could actually be modifying victima. It could be, especially since there's an et right there and no other words with pinguis. It could be although many fat victims went out. But we'll see when we get the rest of this. So pinguis, this is nominative or genitive, singular, and yeah, I can't write the gender yet. Oh yeah, ablative separation. Et and ingrati, ae right there, nominative, genitive, or nominative plural. Premeretur, that tur there is a third singular, and looks like we've got another imperfect subjunctive with off of the infinitive right there. So ingrati cannot be nominative plural or nominative singular, so it must be genitive singular and feminine since this is an adjective. And then that tells us that genitive or dative. Jumped the gun there a bit. So, third singular, imperfect, and passive. Yes, passive. Subjunctive. Okay, so we're looking for a singular subject, which we have right here with kaseas. It's going to be nominative, singular, and masculine. And I think this is just a second declension noun. All right, that's cheese, herby, herbs, herbis, eat, herbi. So we have dative here, singular and feminine. Since this is dative and ingrati needs a noun to modify, we have perfect thing right there. Dative is the more likely of the two there. I don't know really what we would want with a genitive with nothing to own. So our options then are, although many victims went out from my walls, and for the ungrateful city, and pinguis plus cassius means something like cream cheese and pressed cream cheese. Okay. Or although many fat victims went out from my walls, and cheese was pressed for the ungrateful city. I could go either way. The idea that the Romans have cream cheese, really surprising to me. Wow. Though, it makes sense that they'd be able to figure out how to do that. There's just not much in the way of refrigeration. Normally, when I was translating Vergil's Aeneid back in school and then with the kids in high school, we kept words to their line, and most of the time we would find that a word belonged in its line. Sometimes clauses would stretch over two lines, but then the nouns and adjectives modifying each other would be usually on the same line, and it would be a very clear thing. So I'm tempted to side with the editors with the comma right here, and the commentary, which also I think thinks this should go with cassias. But then again, there's that et there. That et, which could, I suppose, be moved for metrical needs, but I would think it's more likely that it's going to be connecting this clause with this clause right here, and then pinguis is part of this one. So I don't know. I am going to go with pinguis modifying many victims, many fat victims, feminine, question mark, or masculine, question mark, and cheese is Trust for feel like I just misspelled that. Would not surprise me. For ungrateful city, comma. Moving on to the final clause. Non unquam, not ever. Gravis aire. So gravis, this one could be gravis, grave, nominative singular, genitive singular. Aire has to be an ablative singular. Yes. And it is neuter. So we get ice, iris, or iris. I don't remember. So, moving on from that, domum, noun, mihi, dextra. Here is a verb, redebat. We have third singular and imperfect again. It is active and indicative. So something is returning. Gravis could work. Aire cannot. Domum could work if it were neuter, but it's not, so it won't. Mihi no dextra. So between gravis and dextra. Gravis could easily be modifying dextra if we were to take dextra as a substantive. It doesn't make much sense for gravis to be substantive, though dextra could just stand in for this thing, the right hand, as a substantive. And feminine, manus is a feminine noun, so it makes sense for dextra to be feminine. Right, about a singular, that is singular. So I think that's what's going on here. So nominative singular feminine, this is dative singular, and then domum is not a normal case that we are used to. So not ever was right hand returning to me. And then we've got gravis, aire, and domum to figure out heavy. And then why would we want a ablative right there? Well, what could be going on is we've got this acting as a adjective clause, whatever those things are called. And domum is actually what dextra is returning to, because one does not return to a dative, one returns to the object of a preposition, or what this thing is, the accusative locative. Do I have that on here? Locative is not listed on this paper. Maybe that's another correction that I need to make. So locative, singular, and feminine, I believe. So the three cases of the locative, they appear as accusative, as genitive, and as ablative. And then there are some exceptions. Yeah, but you'd have to look up grammar for that. So when you have an accusative locative, it's acting like the prepositional phrase odd. It's showing motion toward. When you have a genitive form locative, then it's showing place where. You'd say at home. And then when you have the ablative, it's acting as the prepositional phrase a or a, away from home. So since we have accusative, not ever was the right hand returning to home for me with bronze. And in what way with bronze? Heavy with bronze. Nominative, singular, feminine. Not ever. Heavy with bronze. And of course this means money. Was right hand returning home for me. And there we have it. I think that Tityrus might have a little bit more to say that our Melobius shoots off some small comment before Tityrus continues about his own fortunes and still not answering Melobius' question. Well, not Melobius. getting his name wrong. Sorry about that. Well, thank you very much for joining. I hope taking a look at this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good day. Wally.
What? You're still awake? Why are you still here then? You should be reading a book. Or if not reading, you should watch one of these other videos. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. See you next week.